Last summer, my girlfriend Ivy and I drove out to Arizona for her friend's wedding. It was supposed to be a fun little cross-country trip, just the two of us. A getaway before everything in our lives started to shift. Careers, maybe engagement, maybe not. We thought we'd use the road trip to figure things out. Ivy found this alternate route through the desert. "It'll shave off 2 hours," she said, holding up her phone. "Plus, no traffic, way more scenic." I remember squinting at her screen, the red line snaking across a bunch of nothing. I asked her twice if it was a good idea. The road was barely visible on the map. She laughed it off. "It's just back roads. Trust me, it's fine." So I trusted her. That's where everything started to go wrong. We took the exit off the I-10 late in the afternoon. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the cracked asphalt. At first, it was nice, surreal even. No other cars, just open desert on all sides. The sky went on forever. We put on music, rolled down the windows, took turns driving. But after an hour or so, I noticed something strange. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. Then I realized the sun wasn't moving. We'd been driving west the whole time, but the sun was still hanging to our right, low, like it had been frozen in late afternoon. I pointed it out to Ivy. She shrugged. "It's the desert. Everything looks the same." But it wasn't just the light. We passed a dry, twisted-looking tree, something like a Joshua tree maybe, though it looked scorched and dead. Ivy thought it was cool, so we pulled over and took a picture. I remember her caption, "Dead but still standing." 15 minutes later, we passed it again. Same broken branch, same scorched trunk. I know what I saw. I said nothing that time, not wanting to freak her out. But 10 minutes later, there it was again. "Ivy." She looked up from her phone. "That tree." She stared out the window, then looked back at me. "You're messing with me." "I'm not." We kept driving. Then we passed this old green road sign. It had no text left on it, just a rusted-out frame and 2 bullet holes through the top. I stared at it as we went by. Then we passed it again. Same angle, same holes, same bend in the pole. And again. We stopped the car. There was no signal, just an empty status bar and a spinning wheel. I walked to the back of the car and looked down the road behind us. It stretched endlessly behind and ahead, the same way in both directions. That's when I started to feel a little sick. Let me say this now, before you start jumping to conclusions. We were not high. We didn't take anything. No edibles, no shrooms, not even weed. I don't drink. Ivy barely does. We were stone sober the entire time. We weren't hallucinating. We weren't tired. We weren't being quirky millennials on an off-grid adventure. We were just two people who took the wrong exit and got stuck in something we couldn't explain. The third time we passed the same sign, Ivy turned the music off. Neither of us spoke for a long time. There was a deep kind of silence in that car. Not peaceful, but dead. You don't notice how much your world buzzes until it stops. No planes overhead, no wind, no animals, nothing. After the 5th or 6th loop, Ivy started to cry. She didn't sob, just silent, panicked tears sliding down her face while she stared out the windshield. I tried to talk to her, tried to say something comforting. But what do you say when you're driving in a straight line and somehow ending up in the exact same place over and over again? We tried turning around. Ivy whipped the car into a 3-point turn, tires spinning in the dust. We drove in the opposite direction for maybe 30 minutes. And we passed the same dead tree, same goddamn road sign, same shattered coyote skull by the roadside. It wasn't even like we were driving in a loop. The road never curved. It just stretched forward endlessly and pulled us into itself again and again. I remember my mouth going dry, my tongue stuck to the roof. I remember checking my phone over and over, watching the bars flicker, but never come back. We weren't getting out. Then the gas light came on. That's when Ivy started screaming. I mean, full-on panic, slamming her hands on the steering wheel, cursing, yelling that she didn't understand, that this wasn't possible, that something was wrong. I had to grab her wrist before she hurt herself. I told her to pull over. We were in the middle of nowhere, but we pulled off into the dirt anyway. The heat in the car was unbearable without the AC. We rolled the windows down an inch just to breathe. The air outside didn't help. It felt thicker than it should have, like it wasn't just hot, it was dead, like it wasn't circulating. No smell of dust or sage or gasoline. Ivy curled up in the passenger seat, knees to her chest, arms over her head. I'd never seen her like that. She didn't say anything, didn't move. I sat there, staring at the dashboard, watching the gas needle sink lower. We waited until the sun finally dipped below the horizon. Not gradually, but suddenly, like someone shut the lights off. Within seconds, it went from daylight to pitch black. No stars, no moon, just a kind of darkness I didn't know existed. My pupils felt like they were trying to escape my skull. We didn't sleep. Not really. I think we both drifted in and out, but neither of us dared close our eyes for long. Every time I looked up, I swore I could see something far ahead in the road. Something faint. Something waiting. But I blinked, and it would be gone. Sometime in the night, Ivy whispered, "I think we're going to die out here." I told her no. I told her we'd figure it out in the morning, that someone would come. But there was no conviction in my voice. Eventually, I must have passed out. I remember the desert night being so quiet it rang in my ears. Then I woke up to sunlight through the windshield. But it wasn't the desert. We were parked on the side of a 2-lane road surrounded by pine trees. Birds were chirping. The sky was blue and cloudy. The car engine was off, but the gas tank was full. My phone had 4 bars. I thought I was dreaming. Ivy opened her eyes and sat up. Her voice cracked when she spoke. "This isn't where we were." She was right. The road wasn't even the same type of pavement. Different striping, different guardrails, and we were parked at an angle like we had pulled off the road, but neither of us remembered doing that. I got out of the car and walked a few paces. My knees almost buckled. My legs felt weak, like I hadn't used them in days. We were somewhere mountainous. Northern Arizona, maybe. There were tire tracks behind us in the gravel, but nothing ahead. No sign of how we'd gotten there. No proof of what happened. We made it to the wedding, somehow. Told everyone we'd gotten lost and slept in the car. People joked about it. We laughed along, but I still check Google Maps sometimes. Zoom in on the desert where I think it happened. The turnoff Ivy showed me doesn't exist, and if you're thinking we just got disoriented, maybe? But we both remember it exactly the same. Every repeat, every minute. I've replayed it over and over, trying to figure out what could have caused it. Last summer, my boyfriend Liam and I drove from New York to Oregon. It was supposed to be this romantic, memory-making kind of thing before starting new jobs out west. We were both excited. We planned the route for months, mapped out scenic stops, booked a few motels, saved money so we could splurge on nice meals or a night in Vegas along the way. It started like any normal road trip, long stretches of nothing, gas station coffee, bickering over music. We were about 2 days in, cutting across Ohio, when something strange happened. We pulled into a rest stop around sunset. The lot was nearly empty except for a dark gray van parked at the far end. I noticed it because it was backed into a spot facing the lot, engine off, windows tinted almost black, the kind of tint you can't see through even with light inside. I pointed it out to Liam and joked, "Creeper van, 2 o'clock." He laughed. "Just some guy napping." We went in, used the bathroom, grabbed snacks. When we came back out, the van was still there, but now the driver's side window was cracked just an inch. Just enough to know someone was inside, watching. We got back on the road. An hour later, we stopped again to pee at a random gas station off I-70. As we pulled back onto the highway, I glanced in the side mirror. Same van. 5 cars behind. I don't know how I knew it was the same one. Maybe the dent near the wheel well. Or the way the windows seemed darker than legally possible. But I just knew. I told Liam, and he checked the mirror. "We've probably got the same route, don't panic." But I did panic, because it wasn't just a coincidence. We made 2 more stops that night, one for food, one for gas. Both times, the van appeared within 10 minutes of us getting there. Same model, same dents, same cracked window. At the 3rd stop, I made Liam park and wait. We sat in the car pretending to eat while I stared at the entrance. 5 minutes later, the van pulled in and circled once before parking near the back. Liam was quiet for a while. Then he said, "Okay, that's not normal." We agreed to change our route in the morning. That night, we stayed at a cheap motel in Indiana, a mom-and-pop place off a country road. Nothing fancy, just a place to sleep. We parked near our room. As I grabbed my backpack, I looked up. The van was idling 2 lots away, lights off. Still, engine humming. I told the front desk. The woman working didn't seem fazed. "People park overnight all the time," she said. Maybe someone's visiting. We locked the door, shoved a chair under the knob. I barely slept. Every little noise felt wrong. Liam stayed up scrolling, said he was trying to document everything just in case. In the morning, the van was gone. We hit the road fast, took a different highway, and drove a full 10 hours through back roads and state highways. No big exits, no tourist stops. We were trying to get away from whoever was following us. That evening, somewhere in Iowa, we stopped at a gas station. I stayed in the car. Liam ran inside. While he was gone, I checked our rearview camera, a habit I picked up after all this. There it was, same van, parked across the street. This time, the window was rolled down. A man's arm hung out. Pale, wearing a black hoodie even though it was 90 degrees. I couldn't see his face, just the shape of his head turned slightly in our direction. He wasn't watching the gas station. He was watching me. I ducked down in the seat, heart thudding, and texted Liam, "Hurry, he's here." He came running out a minute later, saw the van, and didn't say a word as he jumped in and slammed the door. We drove, no music, no talking. About an hour later, we pulled into a Walmart to breathe and regroup. I went inside to grab water and saw one of those blue bulletin boards by the door, the ones with local events, job postings, and missing persons reports. There were 5 flyers for missing women, all from different cities nearby, all under 30. 2 of them looked like they could be my sister. I showed Liam when I got back, his face drained of color. "We need to go to the police." So we did. We stopped in Des Moines, walked into a station, and told them everything: the van, the following, the motel, the gas stations. The officer taking the report asked if we had any plates or photos. We didn't, just a general description. The moment we said the van had tinted windows, no front plate, and had been tailing us for days, the officer stiffened. He asked us to wait while he talked to someone. 10 minutes later, a second officer came in, older, said he worked with interagency crimes, mostly human trafficking leads. He asked more questions: where we stopped, whether anyone approached us, if anyone had tried to talk to us at gas stations, rest stops, diners. Then he said something I haven't been able to forget. "Do either of you have a consistent routine when you stop? Any pattern?" Liam and I looked at each other, and we realized we always parked toward the back of lots. We always got gas at night. I always went to the bathroom first. Liam always went inside after me. I always waited alone in the car. They'd been watching us, studying, tracking our habits, figuring out when I was alone. The officer nodded, said he'd seen this before. That traffickers sometimes trail cars across states. That they'll tag vehicles with GPS trackers under the bumper. That they take their time. Wait for a place with weak cameras. Wait for one of us to go missing without anyone noticing right away. He had us pull around back. 3 officers came out and searched the SUV. They found a small magnetic tracker behind the rear license plate. No brand, no markings, just a flashing red light and a dead SIM chip. He said it was likely a burner tracker, one that sends location pings every few hours before being disabled remotely. Untraceable, easy to toss. They filed a report, said they'd notify state troopers along our planned route, gave us a burner phone, and said to change our path again. Stay in populated areas. Use hotels with cameras. Never park in the same pattern. They never found the van. We made it to Oregon 5 days later. I couldn't sleep the first few nights. I kept checking the windows. Every time I heard a car outside, I jumped. It's been almost a year. Nothing's happened since. No van, no signs. But we still don't stop at rest areas. We always check our bumper when we park, and we never ever leave each other alone when we travel. If you're planning a road trip, remember this. Watch your surroundings, break your patterns, and if something feels wrong, leave immediately. Some people on the road aren't just passing by. Some of them are waiting. We were halfway through a summer tour when it happened. Our band, 4 guys in our mid to late 20s, had finally gotten a taste of success. The kind where you're not famous yet, but the venues are full, people scream your lyrics back at you, and strangers ask for pictures at truck stops. We had a routine. Drive, load in, sound check, play, crash. Sometimes in cheap motels, sometimes in the bus if the drive was short. The van wasn't anything fancy. Just an old converted shuttle with bunk beds, a mini fridge, and blackout curtains taped around the back windows. I'm the drummer, and I'm also the lightest sleeper in the group, which is probably why I'm the one telling this. That night, we had just wrapped a sweaty, packed show in Louisville. Crowd was nuts, sold out the merch table. Security even had to pull one guy off the barricade because he kept screaming my name like he was in pain. I brushed it off. You meet weird people at shows. Occupational hazard. We parked the bus behind the venue. It wasn't a sketchy area or anything. There were lights, cameras, a metal gate. One of the venue guys gave us a leftover pizza and said we could crash in the lot till morning. So we did. I crawled into the top bunk at the back. Chris, our bassist, took the bottom. Mason and Vic were up front, already snoring. I remember checking my phone one last time. 2:43 a.m. Then I passed out. At some point, I started dreaming about breathing. Heavy breathing, not mine. It felt close, hot, like someone was hovering over me. I opened my eyes, and someone was. Not a hallucination, not sleep paralysis. A man was standing inches from my face, staring down at me. His eyes were huge, wide open, pupils blown. He wasn't blinking. I let out a confused, strangled noise, half scream, half choke, and jerked backwards, slamming my head into the wall of the bunk. That woke up Chris. He shot upright, confused as hell. "What the f—" The guy, tall, pale, gaunt, smiled at me. Just a slow, tight-lipped smile. Then he ducked down and started crawling into the bunk. At me. I kicked. Hard. Nailed him in the jaw. He fell back into the aisle but scrambled right back up, like he didn't feel it. Chris yelled for Mason and Vic. I tumbled out of the bunk, slammed my knee into the floor, tried to grab the first thing I could use as a weapon. The guy lunged at me. I caught a flash of something in his hand. Metal. Small. A blade. That's when I really started screaming. Mason barreled down the aisle and tackled the guy from the side. Vic followed a second later, socked him in the temple with a metal water bottle. The guy let out a shriek, not a word, just a high animal noise, and tried to crawl toward the front. We didn't let him. We dragged him back and kicked open the side door. He squirmed like a wild dog, tried to bite Mason. Chris punched him in the ribs, and I swear he didn't even flinch. We pushed him out onto the pavement. He landed hard, rolled, and sprang up again. He didn't run. He just stood there in the yellow light of the parking lot, his chest rising and falling like he just played the show himself. Then he smiled again. I'll never forget that second smile. Like it wasn't anger or fear. It was relief, like he'd finally gotten close enough to try. He turned and walked, not ran. Walked into the shadows between the lot and the loading dock. We slammed the door and locked it. None of us slept again that night. In the morning, we told the venue staff. They were horrified, pulled security footage. We watched it on one of their office computers. The guy had waited until loadout. When we were dragging gear back into the bus, he just slipped through the open back door and crawled under one of the benches. Lay flat, totally still, for over 2 hours. No one noticed. Not one of us saw him. He must have waited for us to fall asleep before he came out. The knife was still in the aisle, a small folding blade with a rusted edge, like something you'd keep in a glove box for emergencies. We canceled the next show, reported it, filed a police report. Gave them the footage. They didn't find him. But when the venue posted a recap of our show the next day on Instagram, someone commented, open quote, "You sleep real heavy for a drummer." Close quote. The account was deleted 5 minutes later. I think about that night every time we park somewhere new. I still sleep in the back bunk, but I keep a crowbar next to me now, and we check the bus every night, top to bottom. Cabinets, under the seats, behind the gear. We tour with a lock on the inside of the bus now. Deadbolt, chained, double-checked. The crowd may love you, but sometimes someone loves you too much. And all it takes is one missed door, one moment of celebration, 1 second of letting your guard down. That guy didn't want a photo. He wanted us.